outside the box and do things a little differently, so I'm going to rap my lyrics to you this evening for my opening remarks. There's eight verses, and there's one little spot where you can have audience participation, and your line is "Make My Day." If you've seen the video, you know where it is, but I'll point to you. Otherwise, if nobody participates, I'll do it myself. Anyway, this is Gunfight at the Fauquier Corral. Let's take a ride to take back your rights, get him back from the one that hides in the night. He works alone, but he's part of a gang. He comes from the North Spitz Yankee slang. He got the keys to our county hall. He locked us all out, and now he's having a ball. It was too dark to see how he staged the coup, but I got a plan. I know what to do. Tricky and sneaky, he's got evil game. He's never seen in town, and we don't know his name. He's always out pimping for the status quo, keeping everybody down is how he makes his dough. He's got a gardener, a chauffeur, a chef cooks his meals. He's the hidden broker in the big county deals, marking cards and dealing from the bottom. He'll take your chips he's with an ace up his sleeve, he'll take your chips if you got him. You deserve better. You've got your rights. I'm here to protect them, and I'll ride all night. The real issues are the ones behind all the smoke. He's got us all distracted while we all go broke. The crimes he commits are never ever seen because he's at the top of the money machine. He's out in the open, but he thinks he won't pay. Try me, punk. Makes my day. I'll be the sheriff that stands in fights against any treason that sells your rights. We'll jail these traitors that steal and cheat and put them on trial for all their deceit. Never taught in school, but the answer's at hand. Together we'll fight the plague of the land. The power of the people is the way that it reads, not the power of the money or the power of the greed. Thank you.
My name is Bob Mosier, and I hope to be your next sheriff. I've worked virtually every field of law enforcement, from a beat cop to criminal investigations to emergency operations in places like Iraq and Bosnia and the developing world for anti-terrorism and human trafficking. During my 30-year career, I've commanded as many 300 men and women in the field, and I well understand the trials and strain of leading police agencies on the cutting edge. I'm a modern cop, schooled in new technologies with long experience in investigating drug traffic and social violence. A dozen years ago, when Sheriff Fox, do you mind if I call you Charlie Ray for tonight? Charlie? Okay, just making sure. Was first elected, heroin and gangs were city problems. Well, today, there are problems, and we're not fully equipped or organized to meet them. Fauquier has changed radically during Charlie Ray's tenure, but the Sheriff's Office has not changed to keep pace with it. I know Fauquier County well. I'm no newcomer. I was born and raised not far away, and I began my career as a deputy under Sheriff Ollinger in the county squad car, and I worked my way up to commander. So I'm intimately familiar with the issues faced by our local and state police agencies. I plan to jumpstart classroom programs used as a vital connector with our kids. I will widen and energize public safety programs like Neighborhood Watch and Crime Solvers. I'll meet with neighborhoods in open forums and listen adequately to address community needs and explain shifting challenges that we face in law enforcement. There's much to do, and Charlie Ray has acknowledged that, and he has accounted for a long to-do list, largely pleading that he lacks adequate resources. While I understand the taxpayer's money is hard-won, I'm a taxpayer, and I believe that people want a modern police force and will not stand for waste. So I will bring not only new techniques of modern protection and crime solving, but also successful leadership. And if I win, folks, you should know that I will keep everyone on the job. I will keep everyone on the job, and I will make an honest assessment of strengths and weaknesses within the ranks. To bring about the strengths of any modern police department, accreditation by its peers is essential. This process identifies the best practices recognized by professional law enforcement. Accreditation draws a bright line between the old ways of policing and the new and effective ways of policing. The Sheriff's Department, however, is not accredited. It is not it's not even in the self-assessment process for accreditation. So why has the Sheriff's Department not conducted a survey in conjunction with the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission? The question is a fundamental one in this race for 4 years ahead. Old ways or new ways designed for success? Isolated police dynamics or the pursuit of a much broader community common ground? I aim to be called the People's Sheriff, the guy who came back to Fauquier with the modern techniques learned over many years of work and leadership in other parts of the world. The guy who clearly loves the beauty of this place and the decency of its people and the richness of its history. That is Fauquier. I aim to be the guy who came home to the county with a realistic vision for a secure future and the tools to realize it. I hope you vote for that guy. Bob Mosier. Thank you.
Folks, I've been your sheriff for the past 12 years, and we've worked hard to get to where we're at. I've heard Bob talk about accreditation a lot, and we were in process for accreditation. So I'm going to talk about accreditation first. We were in process. We were told very quickly that we weren't going to be able to proceed with the way that we were going. Our evidence storage facility was a little outbuilding that was held in behind the jail that was falling apart. We were concerned about whether the evidence would be secure enough to continue. I approached the county about that early in 2004 and 2005. We talked about it. We looked for plans. We went through the process through the CIP to see what we could do about improving that facility. They went down to Smith Midland and looked about getting a concrete building down there so that we could move forward to that and get our evidence all into one thing. But it wasn't good enough. The Virginia Power and the Historical Society all didn't like the design of the building. So we ended up going into the laundromat between the jail and the sheriff's office. We worked on that laundromat the first go around. It cost us roughly $159,000. Try to bring this thing up and have it reconditioned to accreditation standards because we were in the process for accreditation standards. We paid our $250 to get into that process. They told us we wouldn't make it because of that. So, after they finished it, we moved all of our stuff into the evidence storage building, and we ran into another problem. There was an air quality issue, which would not pass OSHA standards. You could walk in there and almost get high from the marijuana and cocaine that was stored in the building. So, and there were other places in the state, like Fairfax County, that had the same issue, and OSHA came in and shut them down. That's all on record. We went back to the county through CIP. They gave us another $129,000 to go back into this building and put an air quality system in there. Now, I can tell you it's up and running now. We've been going through 35 years worth of evidence trying to get this thing down to the standards where we could pass accreditation. I can also tell you that we worked on all of our general orders, and all those general orders were vetted through the county. We knew that we had, back then, 187 standards that we had to pass for accreditation.
Excuse me, Mr. Box, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up your opening, please.
All right, Philip.
Thank you.
I knew there wouldn't be enough time. But anyway, I can assure you we're doing everything and we're following those standards. I've been here all my life. I love this county. And there's a lot of things that I'd like to see accomplished. But our budget has risen because of those things. When I first took office, it was roughly $9 million. Now it's $17 million. Technology and all the advancements in moving forward costs us money. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, well, first let me just say, I mean, $18 million is a lot of money, and I'm rounding that off, to run a sheriff's office of this size in a county of about 68,000 people. My take on this is to go in and to review the budget and the current allocation of resources and be able to make a determination of where to best put those resources. As an example, when we talk about this, it's one of the things, we have 3 command staff positions unfilled inside the agency, and that's been for over a year. That's a major and 2 captains, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? So where are those positions? Where is that money being used, or why aren't these positions filled? So to answer your question is, I have questions, and until I can actually get in there and make an assessment of what money is being spent on, or how we're utilizing these resources, whether it be for vehicles, whether it be for evidence handling, whatever it might be, you can't adequately say that would be it. But I have to tell you up front, I don't see raising the budget or asking for an increase in the budget in the near term. One thing I will do, though, is for these men and women that are in uniform, we'll seek a pay raise for them going forward to make them adequately compensated, matter of fact, a little bit better compensated than our surrounding jurisdictions. We do not need to lose people because we're not paying them enough money for a $70,000 investment in training and equipping them to get on the street, only to have them trained and move on to another jurisdiction. So we can do that by building an esprit de corps among the Sheriff's Office personnel, fair promotional practices, anything that would be budget related in that way to get us where we need to be for the better use of the resources that we've been given.
Excuse me, how do you intend to increase pay for officers and hold the line on the budget and not go to the county for more money? I mean, how's that even possible?
I understand the question. What I'm saying is I want to be able to get in and make an assessment and see what we're spending
I
money
mean, you're
on right
making a
now.
promise here to raise salaries.
No.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, please
let me
refrain. Thank you.
No, let me finish. So the idea is to get in there and see what we're spending money on now, to see if there can be, any of that money can be reprogrammed into salary increases over time. But I think everyone agrees, everyone that I've spoken to is willing to pay for good law enforcement. And if it's to keep people here working inside Fauquier County, because it costs more to let them go to another jurisdiction, then it will be something that we may have to ask the board to consider for raises at some point in the future. Now, how that's programmed and how that happens, folks, that's going to be up to a public discussion. It's not anything that the sheriff is going to have control over, but the sheriff is responsible to bring it to the attention of our government leaders about what we need to do. So I think everyone would agree that we would need to at least get this out on the table. Instead of paying our deputies, I think $4,000 less a year as a starting salary from the town of Warrenton Police, and then much lower than that from other jurisdictions, to at least get this conversation out there.
The sheriff is the most powerful law enforcement person in the jurisdiction. But then he doesn't even get paid that much, let alone the deputies. And when you start peeling some of it back, what I see is that the state recognizes the real power of the sheriffs. And that's why I'm running, is because I think the sheriffs have a whole lot more power than they're using. In particular, in terms of protecting the Constitution, in particular, the fact that the elected officials take money, which dilutes your power and your rights. And Charlie Ray has the authority, he has taken the oath to protect the Constitution. So on one hand, the Constitution says you have the power, but on the other hand, we all know that the elected officials trade it. So what I see, in trying to get back to the question, is that I think over the years, certain mechanisms have kind of come into place so that the deputies don't get paid that much, and the sheriff doesn't get paid that much, such that, in essence, it's kind of dampened the authority of the office. And then you're distracted trying to deal with all these other problems. Charlie has the authority to do whatever he has to do to protect the community, irregardless of the budget, as far as I understand it. And so, even though you have certain constraints that I think have been built in, I don't necessarily agree with them.
12 years, it's been a real experience to me. I've gone up and fought for salaries. I got $101,000 one year to fix the inequities created by increases in promotions, and there was a lot of them. And I went through and I put everybody back in line again to bring the salary up to date and up to the square. We had a captain that was making the least amount of money up there. She was a female. And I could see lawsuit written all over that if we didn't fix that. But it's not as simple as it sounds. The county just went through a salary reassessment and we didn't get anything out of it at all. We sit down, we had guys from our department sit down with Ms. Woodley and talk about the problems that we were having in the department. So the county has a process for doing salary adjustments and looking at what the needs are, and they're supposed to go outside of that. Now, everybody forgets we went through a little mini recession here not long ago where everybody was suffering. We were told when we went to the Board of Supervisors, don't ask because you're not getting it. We don't have the funds for it. And I'll tell you right now, I'd hate to be a Board of Supervisors member during those times because everybody's sitting there with their hands out. You You got the libraries wanting money, the schools needing funds, the sheriff's office, fire and rescue. Wait until you see that 800-pound gorilla hit when we're gonna pay firemen to get on. And I'm telling you right now, folks, we need it. The volunteers, I got volunteers working for me as deputies that run deputy calls during the day and fire calls at night. We got a lot of good people sitting in this room that work for me, and they're here tonight because they want to hear, and I do fight for their salaries. You know, I've looked at a few things to do to try to help their pay side of it is take-home vehicles. I give them take-home vehicles to take home. How much does that add to their salaries? $5,000, $6,000 a year? It ain't much, but when the county's telling you, no, we can't do that, we're going to try to make the effort, like Mr. DiCarlo said, for the sheriff to come in and do what he can do. I hire local people here. They don't want to leave Fauquier County. They like Fauquier County. I had an 87% turnover rate when I first got here. So then I started a program because when they had the full law enforcement education there, they would take off and go to other counties, like Bob was saying. And I hate losing good people to go to other counties. So we started running them through the jail first. They do 2-3 years in the jail, then they want to go to law enforcement, and we started moving them to that position. That retained them here a lot longer. I just lost a good man to Loudoun County Fire Service. People are looking, and the town does make more than we do. But every move we make in this county is going to cost taxpayers dollars. I pay taxes. Everyone in here pays taxes. I don't want to see our taxes go up, but we got to find a way to keep the people here safe and secure. And every person that takes a car home, I got the ability to call them, and they understand it. When I need help, they will come running. And I don't think there's a deputy I have working for me that won't stick his neck out to help someone. Be happy to. We have been working really hard to answer Bob's question that he had posed about my captains, my majors positions that I haven't filled. You know, they are filled, Bob, but they're not captains, they're not majors, they're deputies. And we utilize those folks to move them into areas for working the undercover drug stuff. That's a real problem. How do you kick those habits? Is it just law enforcement's problem? No. It's mental health problem. It's the nurses and doctors' problems here in the county to help us find ways.
Hold on, Charlie. I mean, I've lived in Remington, I've lived in Catlett, I live in Orleans, and I have a friend who lives, I have friends who live in Warrenton, and everybody can point to places in each of those communities where right now it is widely known you can buy drugs 24/7. And the mystery is, how is it these places remain in business with the law enforcement we have? I ask you.
Well, Steve, we print every weekend the thing of drugs that we are making arrests on.
I understand that.
Our jail's full. Our jail over in Winchester's loaded up over there. You know, we have to dot our I's and cross our T's to make sure that we make a case that's going to make it through the court system. How do you do that unless you add more people? I've shifted guys around and created a set team to try to help with that. The team runs, and I got 5 people working dope. Is that enough? No. We've joined the task force. We've been a member of the Blue Ridge Task Force for quite some time. They're helping us work it. We just did an Operation Blue Thunder assignment here a week ago where we made 4 arrests, felony arrests, and several traffic arrests, a couple DUI arrests. I mean, we're digging every chance we get to get it. Boots on the ground, we'll put more in there, but I don't think we're solving the problem. We got to keep working drug education programs. I think we need more of that. We do as much as we can, but our community services group is depleted since I've become sheriff here, and it's because I don't have the manpower to put towards community service like I would towards the traffic issues we got, the heroin issues, the robberies that we've had down in Bealton that we're still working on. We're waiting on forensic evidence to come back to see if we can link those. You know, we went down and sit down and talked to the business owners down there. Folks, years ago, neighborhoods would look out for one another. We don't get as much as that anymore. We try to get them to do it, but you got to help us do some of this stuff too. And that's locking your doors, making it more difficult to be taken advantage of. Staying on top of your kids and seeing what they're doing. We don't want them. I've had people that I know of really well die from heroin. I don't like it a bit. I had to threaten to call the governor's office to get a mental health issue to go to Stan because I couldn't get the mental health people to do it. We're working on that. We're working on our CIT training now, critical incident training, so that we can deal with mental health and help with that. It's something that is a process, but now we're having to train all of our people to learn how to do critical incident training. So there's many things that we got going on, but everything you do is going to cost $1 somewhere.
Responses in reference to the robberies. Well, folks, this is not anything new in policing, but presence, the uniform presence of a police officer, of a deputy sheriff, of a marked police car is something that is a deterrent to the criminal element. This is well proven over many years of policing, done in studies that are available. And matter of fact, we're going to give you a copy of that study tonight as it refers to marked vehicles and a marked fleet of police cars. So just so you know, the national average for marked police cars in a fleet is about 2/3 of the fleet. For Fauquier County Sheriff's Office, about 1/3 of our police cars are marked cars. The rest of them are unmarked cars. And I can go down a list of the types of vehicles that we have, the fact that we have 87 cruisers, we have 27 SUVs, we have other vans and different types and makes and models of vehicles. But quite frankly, presence is how you deter crime. Now, as for substations, I know this is a topic that's come up, and I think people are against substations, but people are for presence. So I'm going to go on record and say that I am for a substation, but let me put it this way: a substation with a small s substation. And you know, when I was Patrol Division Commander here before, we had such small s substations. We had one at the Marshall Community Center that was an office that you could go in and conduct interviews, and you could work through your casework and whatever that was. And it's not here now. I don't know what happened to it, but it's gone. Another thing that we had in Bealton is we had a desk at the Bealton 7-Eleven, and it coupled for coffee and time to write a report. But as we become automated, some would say that we don't need to do that because we have the technology. We can file a report from the car. Folks, nothing replaces the interaction, the human interaction with our population, with the citizens of our community policing. And the way you do that is by getting out of your car and going into an area and talking to folks. And if you have a substation, we can do that as well. Let me give you an addition to the substation concept, or with the small s. Remember, small s, I'm not saying build buildings, I'm saying maybe S for an office space. And I think that there are people here, business owners, that would welcome having a sheriff's star on a window outside their place. But I would also like to extend it to a meeting point concept. And what I mean by that is, with today's technology and to prevent crime, if you have someone that would make a purchase or sell something on Craigslist, for an example, to be able to go to this small s substation and actually meet at that location that would be recorded, or that they know law enforcement would either be there or stop by, and be able to make their exchange in that safe environment. So that would be one thing for us to consider, that we would want to make it a meeting point. Not only for that, unfortunately, domestic issues plague families, and there's times when you do have a domestic situation where they want to meet at a neutral spot to be able to hand the kids, or pick them up and drop them off, that kind of thing. What a better place to do it but at a substation concept to where they could meet and get together and make that exchange. So that should answer the question for robberies and substations.
And about the drug issue.
Right, getting there. This one is difficult to tackle because it is pervasive. And the reason why we're having to deal with it is because of the low cost that was pointed out. And it's the thing about the reason why it's raising its head now is because it's so cheap and it's so devastating. The effects are devastating, more so than what might have been considered an experimental marijuana at some point in the past. So the way to deal with this, based on what I know of the inner workings of the sheriff's office at the moment, is I am able to understand that the drug push is coming from areas of Prince William, Loudoun, and Baltimore, Maryland this way. I think we are on the rear end of being with the Blue Ridge Task Force. Don't get me wrong, I think we need people with that task force, but we should be integrated into these other departments that are on the other side of the line over there in Prince William and Loudoun as part of those task forces to have real-time information about what's going on and how to interdict it coming into Fauquier. Because nobody's going to care about Fauquier except Fauquier. Let me make that clear. Please don't respond. But the thing about it is you have to keep this in mind. It's up to us to protect our territory, and I'm committed to protecting and preserving Fauquier County. Now, if you want a real example, in addition to what I've said, I can give one to you.
On the drugs, I mean, there's no question it's a major problem. I think you need to start in the schools, working with the teens and the young adults. And I'd love to go into the schools and talk in the classroom and explain the hazards of the drugs. I think what happens then is it kind of grows from there because a lot of parents are commuting long distances for jobs. So the kids don't have anything to do. And Fauquier has really not provided much in terms of activities for young adults. So I don't mind, how it goes, and kids get into trouble. So I think it's more systemic in that the way Fauquier is set up, where there's two sets of rules. There's one set of rules for a special group of people, and everybody else just has to do the best they can. And so nobody else has any money. And so you have the 9th wealthiest county in the country, and they want to stay in the 1860s. I mean, there is so much potential for the kids to make good use of their time instead of being over here, being influenced by someone that they shouldn't be talking to because they have a bad circle of friends, because mom's not around, because she has to work. That's the way I see it.
When I came into office, we had a lot of that deep mill property there and had a lot of problems. The night sights and the night vision that had come from the military had weakened and was starting to go bad. So we sent a lot of that property back. The problem with a lot of that property is it's at the end of its use. We looked at getting an AT, one of those MRAPs. They came back from the Afghanistan or Iraq, and we were going to have to go to Texas to get that thing. It was free. We looked at the cost of bringing it back up here. It was going to cost us $7,500 to get it up here. We looked at the weight of it. It was 62,000 pounds. And I can imagine one of my youngsters at the sheriff's office driving that through somebody's drain fields or septic system. Then we'd have to get Mr. Foster to come down and look good and try to get us out of there so we'd be responsible for repairing the drain field. And, I want to do everything I can do to protect our guys. And the state police has told me that they have the equipment that is available. We can use it at any time. Scott Jenkins over in Culpeper, the sheriff over there, told me that I was welcome to that. I'm not looking to make our people military, but I am looking to keep our people safe.
So you don't oppose the use of military equipment in civilian circumstances, I think.
It
is where
depends on what
Andrew's
the
going with
military,
that
I don't
question.
need a Gatling gun mounted on a helicopter to take care of the problems here in Fort
You
Worth.
understand philosophically what the question is, using military tactics in civilian
Well, we
situations.
have a
Is that
tactical
proper?
team that will go into a building if we need to, if there's a hostage. We've been working with the schools, I noticed Janice Bourne here earlier, to try to get our active shooter program. You know, these are guys that's gonna be going in looking for a shooter, and all of our guys have had the training, and the schools have cooperated with us
But
real
that's different
well.
than sending somebody in with a tank.
I don't believe anybody's got a tank.
Well, you're talking about some pretty heavy duty equipment.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
I
the issue boils
understand
down
what you're
to.
saying. I'm not looking at going full.
Don't mean to
military.
argue with you, but I mean, that's what philosophically the issue's about.
I'm looking at like military flak vests maybe, but we have those available to us. You know, we just upgraded our tech team helmets and things with Kevlar, and, you know, that kind of sort of looks military, but it's not our intention to go military. Usually when those guys come out, the shit's already hit the fan.
We all try to look at society and understand why the problems occur now that they weren't there before. I mean, guns have always been around, but why are they being used differently now and more aggressively? Is it the cell phones? Is it YouTube? Is it the video games? It seems like somehow it seems like what's happened is society's been polarized much more. Either it's the political parties, and so this polarization is creating this anger. And so trying to figure that out, in my perspective, and you're going to keep hearing me talk about corruption and talking about money, but it seems like what money has done is corrupted the political process, and you hear all this fighting all the time. And the leaders lie. And, you know, we don't trust the government. So it just creates this whole, not maybe that we did in the 50s either, I don't know, it was pretty small. But so it seems like the thing you have to do first is have leaders that you can trust. And from there, hopefully, it filters down and people aren't so aggressive to each other. That's the best answer I have.
Require military-grade equipment for the sheriff's office, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what's your position on the use of that equipment in
The
a
use
sheriff?
of it or the acquisition of it?
Both.
Okay. So far as the acquisition of military-grade equipment, if you're talking about things like MRAPs, no. We live 30 miles from Fort Belvoir and Quantico Naval Base, or the Marine Base, and other areas that have this equipment. It's as close as a telephone call. We're to the state police or Culpeper for that matter. There's no reason for us to acquire that kind of mechanization. And I've experienced what it can do. It's not anything that we want or need. But if we can get it and we need it, we should be able to do that. And I think by calling those entities, we can. The National Guard being the front line for that access. And that's controlled by the Commonwealth of Virginia, not the federal government. Just so you know, that's the path that I would take. This stuff needs to stay within Virginia. It doesn't need to go outside of Virginia. So if we can do it that way, that's the way that we would ask for it if we needed it for a particular incident. Now, for its use, I will take Charlie Ray's fan concept and agree with him that if it gets that bad, you know, we'll have to think about what that looks like. I don't anticipate it will be, especially if we are on the front end of doing our job in community policing, because we will know where this potential action could be taking place. We will know if someone decides to come out here and put together some kind of a training camp or something like that. We've got some pretty remote areas out here. While I've been on the campaign trail, I learned that there was an area where marijuana was being grown in the far northern end of the county, and a special clearing that could only be seen from the air if you were flying at a certain degree, and they knew it was inside the controlled airspace, so nobody could fly in there and check it out. So this kind of stuff is going on, but we have to be prepared for that. And in thinking about that's where I would go. So, hope that is.
I think the other issue that's out there too, that sometimes leads us to drugs, is sports injuries. And so that's the way they start getting some of the medication, and then it still hurts, and even though it doesn't, and once you know, next thing you know, they're addicted. Yeah, you've got to approach it from multifacets, whether it's in the schools or, you know, I come back to you need a strong family unit to start with. You need parents at home who can monitor what their kids are doing, who they're socializing with.
That's all well and good, but we're talking about children who don't have that. You know, there are a lot of children who ends up with Boys and Girls Club are in our programs because they lack some of those resources. And so the question is there an interaction between the Sheriff's Department and the nonprofit social service community to intervene in these children's lives? I mean, in perfect world, you're right. Mom and Dad is the line of defense.
But, well, in answer to your question, yes. Anything the Sheriff's Department could do to interact and engage the kids with the children and the teens and establish relationships with them will help to give them more of a foundation so they would be less tempted to use the narcotics.
Okay, part of my platform is this, when it comes to youth in our community. I want to view this more as a prevention than intervention if we can do it this way. And it really needs to be this way. One of the things that I plan to do is to be accessible, and it's going to lead into what you're asking about in just a moment. But so the idea is that one day every week or every 2 weeks, I got to feel this out. But what I plan to do is to take off and go to a different area in the county and visit with folks in the morning, businesses, whatever. And then on my way back to Warrenton, I want to stop in a grade school, and I want to have lunch with the sheriff. So I've already got an invitation from Ren up in Orleans to come to her school and eat lunch with her the first time out, and I'm going to do that. But to start off that way, and then come back to Warrenton and be available in the afternoon. No appointment necessary. You walk in off the street, you don't have to give your name, and you can visit with the sheriff and tell him what's on your mind. And it's an accountability piece to the public to be able to meet directly, not call somebody and make an appointment, just come in. So when we talk about the intervention, so if we're going to miss it at the grade school level, because we used to have a DARE program, it went away, but if we're going to get to the intervention piece of it, then it is groups like the Boys and Girls Club. It is groups like Scouts. It's also a group called the Law Enforcement Explorer Program. We used to have an Explorer program here. I want to bring that back, and I want to bring it back in a way that contributes to this community. And the idea would be this, that we would get young boys and girls, 14 to 21, to join up as an explorer, go through the training, and there we have our recruitment pool of future deputy sheriffs. By the way, in our old Explorer program that we had, those explorers have gone on to become successful men and women in law enforcement in leadership positions. It's incredible to watch it take place. My wife Cindy was here, and she was a DARE officer. She still has people come up to her on the street when they see her and congratulate her for the interaction that they had together. So I'm a strong proponent of that, but I think what you're asking is how do we do this together? And so the answer is, as sheriff, I would do promote interactions with the Boys and Girls Club or with Scouts. I volunteer as an NRA firearms instructor for Boy Scouts and firearms safety. Every chance I get, I've done it locally. I've done it other places. I've visited the Boys and Girls Club over here. Not as often as I'd like, sorry, but I'll get there. But also in Cedar Lake, their program down there. But I think it's something that we bring together and work together toward.
I agree. I like the DARE program, and it kind of broke my heart because when it went away, and the studies showed that the DARE wasn't working anymore as well as it could have been.
Can we tailor that and make it new for us here in the county?
You know, with the schools having their education programs, that seemed to interfere with what we were wanting and trying to do. And, you know, we've become reactive more than active to the things instead of being preventive. And I'd like to see more prevention stuff, but it's hard to get to that when guys are running from call to call to call. They're burned out at the end of their shifts, and then they want to go volunteer for. They got a lot to do. Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry, I'm sliding back. I like having deputies in the schools, the SROs. You know, those kids never forget their school resource officer. And I'm proud of that. I had a parent show me the other day of this great big guy who was a deputy, works for me, helping this little teeny girl, it looked like an elephant and a mouse, walking up to the school. And it put such a print in my head. I'm like, wow, that's a nice picture. They're there to help these kids. And those kids trust these officers, and that's part of building the trust back into our communities, having the officers. And I agree, I wish there was more time that the officers, I started off like Bob talked about, going to the schools and eating the lunches. And, you know, after a while, I was stuck in the office more. I wanted to get out more, but I had things that I had to get done there. Well, crime's 16% down this time. I'm taking credit for it.
I'll pass. That's all right. All right. Mr. Moser?
Yeah, so, crime rate's down nationally, and I know Charlie Ray said he's taking credit for it too, because crime rate's down here too, which, I mean, you can do it, no problem. But the question then becomes, what is the clearance rate of the crimes that are reported, that are investigated? And the latest figures that I can find show that we are, on a national average in Fauquier County, we are about 10 points below the national average on solving crime. And this includes homicide, assault, rape, robbery, burglary, larceny, auto theft. Now, in the burglary case, we're 1 point above the national average. In the auto theft clearance rate, we're about 3 points above the national average. But these statistics are available for you to grab at the end of the door. They're not made by me. It's, the source information is on here. I do have the arrest statistics from 2011 and 2013 too. And arrests have declined each year from 2011 to 2013. And that's the most recent information I have available. But let me add to that this. The use of technology and statistics in crime and whether or not you feel safe in your communities. Just tonight, before I came here, I went to the Fauquier County Sheriff's Office website. This is the government website. And on that website, the last update to Crime Solvers on the website was in 2013. 2013. The unsolved homicides, or the cold case file for public access. This is you as a citizen going onto the Sheriff's Office website and trying to find out what crimes have been committed. Do I have information that could help solve a crime? And just so you know, there are 3 cases on there, and that is the Cactus homicide that occurred in 1982, Tammy Thorpe, who perished in 1988, and then Brian Mace in 2003. However, the unsolved homicides from March 24th, 1991 of Robin Brooks and Joan Kinney, these are people. And then from Dew Chell Park in 2008 and Sarah Greenblatt in 2012 are not on our website for our county government, for people to access it, to be able to report information if they know it. So I'm about clearing the crimes that we have now. It's okay to talk about it and things that we need to do, but these are some basic things that we can get information in the hands of people that could make a difference. I want to do that. Thank you.
I can't answer why it's not on there. I know that we are actively working. Sarah Greenwald is not a cold case. Don't want it to be a cold case. Mr. and Ms. Thorpe, I promised you when I came into office here that I would keep on working on your daughter's death, and I am going to continue to keep working on your daughter's death. And I'm hoping here in the near future that we're going to make some headway on that. But, you know, I'm not giving up. I'm going to chase him down. I've identified who the person is, and we're going to keep chasing his ass until he's in jail.
Gentlemen, what is your view on the physical fitness standards for law enforcement officers? Charlie?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
I'll take no problem with that. If the bullets get to flying, I'm sure they're gonna get behind me, the fat guy. You know, everyone that comes to work at the sheriff's office has to go a physical fitness standard. They go down to the doctor, they're required through DCJS to go through that physical. There are some guys that are heavy on my department, but I hire people because they're qualified and they're doing the job. I don't judge them by their looks or their weight.
I would try to have a department that's physically fit.
Yeah, I mean, there are standards within law enforcement for the physical fitness of police officers for their own safety as well. I mean, the last thing we need is to have someone have a heart attack because they're chasing a criminal because of fitness. So, having said that, those standards, you identify those through accreditation. And through that accreditation process, you can implement the change. It's not anything that's going to occur immediately. It'll be something that people would be prepared for and given time to come on board from a physical fitness standpoint as we would work through accreditation. But I'm not talking about anything new here. I mean, these are things that, remember, we have agencies that are accredited law enforcement agencies. 6 of the 7 counties that surround Fauquier are Virginia accredited law enforcement agencies. The town of Warrenton is an accredited Virginia law enforcement agency, as is the Virginia State Police. So taking that and thinking about it from that perspective is proven. It works. It's something that's good for law enforcement and good for the health of the law enforcement officer. So we would do all we could to promote that and prepare people for that. Yes.
Charlie, would you respond?
Yeah.
On the accreditation issue?
Why did the city of Fairfax just say that they're not going to do accreditation standards any longer?
I think that's the national accreditation standards that you're making reference to. I'm talking about the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Was it the money?
No, I have no idea, but it's Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Accreditation, folks, I'm telling you, is going to be expensive. Anything you do, accreditation, you got to maintain it to keep it going. I just spoke to the chief of police yesterday down at a restaurant eating breakfast. He told us that it's very expensive. He just had to go through that. Cheap battle. So, and he hired the guy from DCJS, Gary Dillon, who put us in process back when we went in to do accreditation. You know, all my rules and regulations, everything of working towards accreditation, we just haven't got there yet.
Does it affect public safety?
Do what?
Does it affect your effectiveness
No, it hasn't.
in protecting the public?
Unless I got too many fat guys because of
I
it.
guess that's the question.
Well, we've set up some programs in the past that we go up there and check trucks and things, but, you know, that come from Mr. Filings, and I know where that came from.
Right.
I'm never going to satisfy Mr. Filings.
When I do address it, this might get me in trouble with Mr. DiCarlo, Chris, if I tell him, I think the sheriff's office has stopped more than one, because I personally witnessed 2 tractor trailers stopped on Route 17 just outside of Delaplane at my, where I was holding a fundraiser for my campaign. So I know that they stopped at least 2 tractor trailers up there, so that's a total of 3 that would be it. But having said that, to me it's a speeding problem. If we have people that are exceeding the speed limit dangerously, and you have to remember, tractor trailer is unforgiving. If it wrecks, it's it. I mean, that's especially at a speed of 60 miles an hour or 55 or any speed for that matter. So I think, again, if we go back to the marked cruiser concept, having marked police cars out and about, and the people see it, they slow down. And I'm not saying you have to be sitting there running radar all the time, but the fact that you're seen and be available to make that stop, to pace a tractor trailer versus only do radar or LiDAR or whatever the case may be, I think that you can make that statistic drop, especially the amount of speeding. Another thing that you need to talk about too, that we're not talking about yet, is logging trucks. Logging trucks are prohibited to drive on the interstate, so they take our country roads, our back roads. And those are a significant challenge when you think about potential safety issues or accidents. So that's another thing. I don't know quite how to address that, but I think we need to engage our state leaders and county government leaders on ways to look at that as well. I'm not too sure what the outcome will be, but other than just taking note of violations of whatever traffic laws might be there, and then making enforcement measures as necessary. So.
Okay, Mr. DeCarlo.
I'll just add real quick. I've driven a tractor trailer southbound on 17, and it's a ride even at the speed limit. So I'd be surprised if they're really speeding, because it's pretty hard just to maintain control at the speed limit.
The thing is, I don't know how much it'll cost. What I do know this though. We have it's part of the document packet that you can pick up on the way out here. It's called the Fauquier County Sheriff's Office Path to Accreditation. And what we do is we go through a list of things that we'll do initially within the first 100 days and how we will go apart. But this is the key, is the survey. Charlie Ray talked earlier about having gone through the survey process or something back earlier. I don't know, I haven't seen the survey. There's no indication that the survey was completed. It was just that we couldn't do it. Well, my thing is that we would actually submit the $250, get into the queue, because right now we are not in the queue for a self-assessment process. So we could get into the queue for the survey, get the survey document, and find out where, if there are any deficiencies. Who knows? We might be there. I don't know. But to be able to do the survey, say again?
We're getting close.
You're getting close. Okay, so we could do the survey to find out exactly where we are, and then be able to come up with what would need to be done from a planning perspective. And if it is going to cost money, to identify what those costs are and present those costs as we go forward to the Board of Supervisors if we need to do that. But the indicator that I have is that it really has to do a lot with policy revision and some other things. But the document's there. I can read through it if you want, or you can take a look at it later in your choice.
We don't know. I mean, it's like our building. We just spent almost $300,000 getting the evidence storage facility into a position where we...
Excuse me, so it's more than personnel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you explain that?
Well, like the jail, for instance, the jail requires that if you're going to have the jail accredited, you have to have a covered recreation area in there. I don't know how much it's going to cost us to get a covered recreation for the jail. We could do a partial accreditation, which would cut the jail out of it, just do the law enforcement side of it. The jail meets the DOC standards, maybe we could do that, take a look at it. I think Culpeper County does it that way. They didn't even get the jail side of it accredited. But we just got our evidence storage facility completed. Our dispatch center just got an accreditation that it just went through and was approved. So there's a partial accreditation, and this is what we've been working for since. But at some point in time, he's going to have to ask for accreditation manager or pull somebody that's already doing a job there and assign them the accreditation manager's position. And the duties and jobs that guys are doing now, say sergeants on the shift, they're going to have to do inspections of their equipment, and all the equipment has to be same, the cars have to be set up the same, the uniforms have to be set up the same. There's a lot of inspection stuff that goes under all those standards that we're going to have to come into compliance with.
I think it's a crime the way this county treats its citizens, in the sense that there's no tax base coming from the commercial side. I mean, they're making everybody twist around to try and solve these problems that are serious problems, always saying there's no money. But then it also doesn't want any industrial or commercial growth. So maybe that's why we have problems.
I think it's a good idea, but there's a lot of research being done on it right now. Billy Hitt went over to Prince William County here not long ago. They've been in the process for 2 years looking at cameras. What kind of camera are you going to buy? Is it a high digital quality camera, HD? Is it going to be something that's a little cheaper? How long does the camera or the equipment last? Where are you going to store the information? Who's going to look at the information once you get it to see whether it's evidence quality information? You know, there's a thing called evidence.com that you can pay a fee for, and they'll store all your information for you. You know, I think it was like $4.95 a person to store that information. Well, we do hundreds and hundreds of cases. How much is that going to cost us in the long run? There's some people out there that's got other equipment that they're using, they're saying it's fine. Is there going to be grant money available for it? You know, that's something we're probably going to have to look at, and the county's going to want us to search before we purchase anything. Yes, I think it's necessary. I know when we put cameras in our police cars, it cut our complaints quite a bit, almost 90%. When you get a guy that comes in and wants to complain that the officer did something, and you can pull that video and say, okay, that's not what I'm seeing. Of course, it can get the officer too. I've had to let officers go because they did something that they shouldn't have done. So, but most of the guys know if you're recording stuff, you don't do things like that or get out of hand. So I like the equipment.
So how aggressively are you guys pursuing?
Right now, we're just waiting on the research to decide. Matter of fact, we're supposed to be testing some of the equipment here within the next couple of weeks.
I would not be in favor of body cameras from the sense that I see it as another Band-Aid for not paying the deputies enough. And I think if you just paid the deputies more and if you had maybe, I don't want to say more qualified, but you know, you had a higher caliber possibly, and they weren't leaving, and you didn't have as much turnover, then you wouldn't have the problems, then you wouldn't need the body cameras, and so it just seems like the system is creating these problems, and then the officers are always got this camera, and he always has, you know, complex because he's always got this camera, and it kind of takes away from what I think why they became police officers in the first place, because now some big brother's always got to be keeping an eye on them. So personally, I wouldn't want a camera, and so you know, I'm trying to get back to basics, but you know, you have all of my argument, as I said in the beginning, is that all these mechanisms have kind of been put in place in terms of the state setting the salaries for the deputies, and then you have to negotiate with the county to get more. I mean, it seems like everything's been done to make it harder and harder for them to do their job, and the sheriff also.
Yeah, so this technology is evolving, and what's important is that we make sure that we completely review what's available. Not only does it go to a camera now, it's something that could also be involved in voice and report recognition. I mean, there are so many things that can happen with facial recognition, biometrics that can be used with these devices, that if you act too soon and start to implement them, then you're going to find yourself playing catch up on trying to get something implemented. So it's something that we need to review. And this also includes all manner of technology within the sheriff's office. When you're talking about something as simple as online reporting, you can save money. And so when you talk about body camera technology and online reporting technology to where it would save you know, $75 to send a deputy to your house to take a mailbox vandalism report as opposed to doing it online, which would cost $2, there's a savings there. So if we look at this, we should look at it from that perspective. What is it going to do for us as law enforcement as an evidence capturing tool, not to monitor the police? That's not the reason for the body camera. The body camera is a way to collect evidence that can be used in trial. So we need to fully investigate that and what that looks like. So that would be the position.
So there are no citizen values or concerns when it comes to body cameras?
No, there is. But I'm talking about that being a byproduct, because what you're doing as a law enforcement officer, the way that you conduct yourself and you conduct business, if you have this device to monitor your interaction, it's collecting evidence as you go through it. If somebody's inebriated and fallen over, that's what's being caught on the camera. Now, if you have somebody that resists arrest, a part of that is catching the evidence of that of resisting arrest. So that's the thinking behind the use of body cameras. It's not to check the police, it's to be able to have evidence when you go to court. Now, if you have a bad cop, they're going to be bad anyway, and they'll find a way to defeat that device.
I don't know, I've had some pretty good meals up at the jail.
Have you really? I heard this just like 10 days ago. Somebody told me about this.
Well, I love tomato soup. I'm not asking.
Well, it's not tomato soup with grilled cheese. I'm talking about tomato soup with a slice of bread. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Now
know.
you know it's not luxury. We don't get a lobster and steak, but you know, is there some minimal standard of what
There
we
is a
feed these
minimum
folks?
standard, it's set up by the Department of Corrections, it's monitored. We just went through a jail inspection here not too long ago, we got 100% on our jail inspection. We're double booked in our beds.
Sure.
Our jail's overcrowded here, that's why we have a jail over in Winchester, to catch the overflow. And, you know, we do everything we can do to keep the costs down and as low as we can without suffering. But another note to the side of that, and Sheriff Higgs did it when we were here, but we use the inmate workforce to save taxpayer dollars in our county. They go around, and I'm sure either one of you get it, you're going to use the inmate workforce too. It only makes sense to save as many taxpayer dollars as you can. They move furniture, they shovel snow, they cut grass, and do a really good job at it.
I'll pass.
I mean, these are set standards of what they should be consuming so far as calories. I don't know how you can depart from that. The menu may not be the best menu, but it is what it is as far as the menu is concerned. But I have to tell you, in the jail piece is a thought about the cost. And, you know, it's cheaper if we can prevent them from coming back to jail. We know we're going to have people that are violent offenders, and we have to incarcerate those people because they are a danger to society. But for those cases where you have people that are not violent offenders and they are eligible for release, we need to work together with the community. And you mentioned this earlier about prevention programs involving youth, catching before they get in. But what about while they're on the inside? You know, what's happening there? What civic or church organizations are actively involved in working with our inmates? Literacy programs or whatever it might be. I'm sure we have some, but I think that we could do better in that category. And then also, I'm interested in hearing from the community, church civic organizations that would like to rally around people that would be released from jail that are nonviolent to help them walk out that time of release, maybe for the next 12 months of their life, to where they can help them go back and forth to get their license or get a job or whatever it is. But people that are interested in helping out other people that are less fortunate in this way. So I think it takes leadership to get us there, to open the door for such a program. But I have been approached and there is interest in doing that. And that's one of the things that I'll explore. It's much cheaper to keep them out of jail, especially if they're taxpayers. And later on, it can lessen the burden for all of us. And so I think that that's one of the ways that we can think about that. But of course, we would follow the prescribed measures and guidelines for keeping someone incarcerated, calorie intake, etc. It's only professional.
I won't rap. I'm an independent candidate for the office of sheriff because I want to fix America. As your sheriff, I will fix America by arresting Virginia's elected officials that accept campaign contributions, charging them with bribery, treason, and sedition. I will charge them as traitors for trading access to the power you have placed with them. I will charge them with treason because they are violating their oath of office and the Virginia Constitution in an official capacity. And I will charge them with sedition for conspiring with their contributors to allow the power and greed of money to overthrow the governments of the people. Article 2, Section 7 of the Virginia Constitution provides sheriffs, via a sworn oath and the power of arrest, with standing to protect the power the Constitutions give you. So what do you think? Do campaign contributions dilute your power to control your governments? Do contributions serve the common good? Can and should the sheriff arrest elected officials for bribery, treason, and sedition? November 3rd is your chance to answer these 3 questions with your one vote. As your chief law enforcement officer in Fauquier County, my authority will supersede that of any state or federal officer. As your elected sheriff, I will have your authorization to proceed against these at-large villains and declare them most wanted. Please tell your friends to support this campaign and vote so the deputies and I can jail these privileged and at-large criminals with all the others and fix America.
Yes. Thank you again, everyone who made this even possible. Thank you, Charlie Ray, for your service to our county. Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this. I'm using my 2 minutes, but Charlie Ray was known as the crime-solving machine when we worked CID together back in the day. Thank you to all of you who came out to hear from the candidates and those who have decided and are still deciding. Public safety and law enforcement in many ways is the supreme obligation of local government, ahead of all other responsibilities. For Fauquier, the office of sheriff is paramount in meeting this obligation, and the sheriff, personally, the pivotal leader. In a position of immense authority, and so in a democracy, a position of immense responsibility. Each candidate for this high office is obliged to provide the people a clear picture of how he will meet this immense responsibility. Charlie Ray has been in office for a dozen years and asked to be judged on his record and honor his work in the community, but I do honor his work in the community, but evaluating the record, I humbly suggest that I offer a better path forward for safer and a more secure community. I've tried in my answers tonight to be clear on the details of that path, to provide a full picture of how I will meet that responsibility. But because 90 minutes is too brief a time for accomplishing this large task, especially with 3 participants in a rap video too, that I didn't come tonight expecting to fully outline my plans for a safer Fauquier. So I put together a written roadmap for the first 90 days of Sheriff Mosier's term in office. And that is available to each of you when you leave. If you don't get a copy, we'll post one on the website for you. I invite each of you to press me on it and to pose every question that comes to mind after you consider the plan. I'm devoted to meeting and speaking with every citizen who is concerned or just curious about my proposals. I began my campaign early on President's Day in the snows of February, and I've worked diligently since to make enough time for the community to get to know me and my experience and my accomplishments and my ideas. I will continue over the next 2 weeks, as I have throughout. It's an honor to seek this immensely important office. I hope to be elected on November 3rd, and I'm ready and excited to hit the ground running in January as a guardian of the peace in our community. I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd. Thank you and good night.
Here you have it, folks. You got your choice. I want to be your sheriff again. There's no question about it. I wouldn't be up here tonight. There's still some things that I want to get accomplished, like my evidence storage facility and cleaning that up and moving towards accreditation. But, you know, Fauquier County is my home place. It's been my home forever. I was born and raised here. I got 31 years in law enforcement I've dedicated to everyone sitting in this office, and I'm planning on staying another 4. I'll cross over that bridge after I get to the end of those 4, whether I want another one or not, but I doubt very seriously I'm heading down that path. Because Bob's wore my ass out this go around. But anyway, I'm here. If you have questions, if you have concerns, we work towards those concerns. And, you know, whether I'm the sheriff or Bob's the sheriff or Chris is the sheriff, he's going to need y'all's support moving through all these board of supervisors and agendas to get what you need up here. And if you don't stand up or you don't push forward for it, it's going to be hard for us to get it. It's your county. You decide what you want. You know, I'm planning on asking for a whole boatload of deputies this next go-round. Whether I'll get them or not, it'll be another thing to decide. But my concern is not to raise your tax dollars, but it's to fit the needs of the communities and make it as safe as I can be. Now, one year I asked for 22 deputies, and I think I only got like 3. So don't get scared. The Board of Supervisors will hold us back. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for coming out. And I'm gonna continue to run till the end. He's got me gimping now, but he ain't gonna get the other leg yet.